guidelines for local determinations and speed limit factors. Speed limit considerations. Installation commanders shall consider the following when setting maximum. Section 8, Railway Safety Requirements. The mission of the Safety Department is an enable activity to assist the installation commander of ensuring railway operations of activity conducted in a safe manner to help prevent loss of life, to reduce the number and severities of injuries, property damage, to maintain effective operations. The mission extends to the captive railroad fleet and the commercial cars while on station. All installation commanders shall and personnel in charge of any praise dealing of railway shall consult the safety department before making decisions that they may affect the safety of railroad operations. Each safety department shall have a person appointed on orders as a railroad safety manager. The manager shall be railroad safety technical authority for station railroad safety issues. The installation commander may assign additional personnel to reduce railroad safety when risk of operation and railroad warrants additional augmentations of the railroad. This risk assessment should be addressed. Factors such as the number of accidents and indecent near misses, typical material being hauled, condition and rails, and distance covered, and mechanical condition of the equipment and frequency of use. The safety department shall have a working knowledge of day-to-day operations and provide safety guidance when needed. The safety department shall immediately notify when an instant near miss or an emergency occurs. Installation commander shall ensure that the involvement of the safety department with all aspects of a railroad to help prevent emergency, to detect and eliminate unsafe trends and hazards. Safety requirements. Installation commanders shall develop plans to ensure safety department involvement in captivity of railway operations. The person should be included in local railroad operating director, railroad standard operating procedure, railroad manual activity instructions, which governs the operation of the railroad. Installation commanders and shall ensure the plans and address the following areas in the minimum. All railroad personnel should be conducted at least once a month safety inspections. They should conduct the safety department personnel or other railway supervising adherence to safety precepts. The safety department shall conduct an inspection at least quarterly. The safety documentation. All railroad inspections and documentations review and safety department of all section inspections must be a minimum of 5 years in accordance with Albert Navius 5.10023 and maintained in a certain location for a review of future inspectors. Safety analysis. Installation commanders should be required to analyze these reports to determine when trended and patterns developed with safety implications needed to address by adoption of new safe policies. The safety consultant. Installation commanders shall require that the railroad consult with the safety department before issuing new policies and changing existing policies in railroad matters of effective safety. The requirements will provide the safety departments and some knowledgeable railroad activities opportunity recommends changes in safety adversely effective safety override. Installation commander shall appoint railroad safety manager over to the oversight of the railroad safety program. The local railroad operating directive and shall have allocated operative document, standard operating procedure, railroad manual, activity instruction, established procedure for aspect of railroad operation. Installation commanders should railroad safety department and shall review the government document before publication before changes are made, and the requirement will ensure the safety department can be determined as if visibly affected in changes in the railroad operation. 3. Local railroad operating directive. The local railroad operating directive, such as the standard operating procedure, railroad manual, activity instruction, etc., is virtual safe, effective, and efficient operating of a railroad, contents of a local railroad operating directive. Installation commander should ensure the local railroad operating directive implements all the requirements of these publications other than pertaining directives and instructions of the following, if applicable: Navy MO 103, Navius 11230.1 Series, Navy C Op 4 Volume 1, Navy C SWO 23-A GW-WHM -0.1 0-010. Ensure the local railroad operating addresses that the special situation unique to the installation. Ensure the local railroad operation directive establishes hard notification systems. Ensure that the local railroad operating directive establishes a program for the refresher training. Ensure the local railroad operating directive establishes procedure conducting stand-up and safety briefings. In special situations, some possible situations are discussed below. Downsizing may be directly effective railroad operations. Personnel with railroad experiences must be designed and worked on railroad. Downsizing may also affect the railroad indirectly, as such personnel and the safety department facilitates and fire stations as installation commander is responsible for ensuring a safe railroad during and after and downsizing. 2. Reserve augmentation. Some activities use reservists to augmentate the railroad. The program of reverse augmentation benefits of the activity, and it gets additional personnel and its reserves if they get valuable hand-on training. However, installation commanders shall actively maintain a program ensuring the reservists and support that creating a safe concern example, including developing and documenting on any job training for each of the specialties of the reservist work. Not all reservists is to perform particular tasks with proper supervision until the demonstrated competency, ensuring all the reservists have the proper certification and licensing, maintaining informal records of their tours and performance at their additional training if needed and can be during the next tour or duty. Note of change of mission. Installation commanders shall conduct analysis of how and any mission changes will affect railroad prior to assumption to a new mission. Changes of railroad operations, equipment, and facilities shall be made when analysis shall show the safety that have negatively affected. Reorganization has occurred in some activity. The railroad operations has retained by activity, but track maintenance and locomotive railway car maintenance has been moved to other organization, resulting in the creation of the new lines management authority responsibility. New lines authority and responsibility make railroad difficulty to manage a system and loss control if possible. Installation of commanders shall remain constantly active in communications and become the confused and not existent installation shall ensure the organization reform responsible for different aspects of the railroad which have well-defined processes. Communications with each other and installation commanders shall ensure the organization thoroughly understand each process. Example, maintenance notification of out-service track, notification of times and locations of track maintenance for request of railway car spotting and mishap reporting, etc. Contract. In some cases, railroad operations, one or more aspects of track repair, locomotive, or car repair are contracted to a commercial concern. Installation commanders of those responsible for contracting out of the railroad operations shall ensure the safety is a part of contract communications among and between the railroad operators of the user of the railroad and the other installation personnel whose interface of the railroad maintains open. An association of American Railroad Installation recognizes the importance of local railroad operations and have based on Standard Code Operation Code published in a session of the American Railroads. This manual is an excellent source of information because it is Haynes of collective wisdom experiences of commercial railroad operating on private sectors. Many activities have written their railroad operations and have quoted the rules and designation letters and numbers instead of actual rule. Frequently, original rules have been forgotten, and no one remembers the rules from which or designation stood. Installation commanders are encouraged to use the standard code of operation of rules in written local railroad operation device and shall quote the rule instead of the number of letter designation. Training installation commanders shouldn't have that all railroad operating personnel shall be trained familiar until the contents of local railroad operation directivity. Training should show the subject that the material covered type training, classroom correspondence manual, review video, etc. The instructor date of training, results of testing and training, signatures, the annual review of local railroad operating directives. Installation commanders shall ensure the local railroad operating directive is reviewed and annually. Installation commander shall prepare stating whose revived and directive when review was conducted, whether changes were made, whether letter was maintained until the next review. The focus of the review is to ensure that the document properly addresses and changes the railroad operating occupancy policy that they made safely and accurately changes the installation way of the doing business. Any installation commander shall review the documentation within 90 days, assuming the command of hazard notification system, a general tracking information. Track conditions can change over a period of time, example including but are not limited to out of service defective track hazards, completion of track works, and of change in speed and time. These conditions require train crews to modify actions of the way and the handle of the train. The relying solely of the passing of the information formally by the word of mouth does not ensure that all train crew members will notified and can be led to controversy, confusion without actually said. Requirements: installation commanders shall establish a system to ensure a daily dissemination of the key information, although it is not required the written acknowledgement of railway personnel that they have key information. The system needs to cover who has been on a long time for a period. Records resulting on a hazard notification system shall be maintained at least 12 months. An effective, efficient way to record a rail crew acknowledgement of hazard location is to use an electronic print board to list the hazardous change of track conditions out of the service track, slow orders or others made related information. Personnel required to say in the board thereby acknowledge they understand the hazard. Printing the board of after crews and have signal provided in conventional way to maintain permanent record information, and those who read a printed record and recorded to be read acknowledge of those who returning from an absence. Or refresher training. General refreshing training is important to continue to access any discipline, skill, railroad, operation training. Training is virtually to ensure that safety is achieved. Small points can be easily forgotten. Small points are frequently the difference between the safety, railroad, and disaster. Maintain catalog. Refresher training courses are conveniently way to ensure refresher training is accomplished. A requirement installation considered. Installation commander shall 1. Review all aspects of the railroad operations, determine which skill is critical, hazardous, and example skills of signal coupling, switching, radio procedures, mounting, and dismounting, developing a listing procedure necessarily to safely perform to each critical skill, developing a lesson plan for each course of maintaining profession of necessary skills, developing a training schedule covering all refreshers. Training after training has completed, documenting to show the subject and a type of classroom correspondence, main review, video education, inspector date of training, resulting training, test training, signature, safety, standing briefs. One place of the training can be accomplished. Standing up safely in briefings. Generally, stand-up briefings are valuable in 3 reasons. 1, they provide an excellent means to safely related information to the railroad personnel personnel, and those who provide excellent means to information personnel, new hazard track, washouts, malfunction switches, restricted tracks, etc. Frequently face-to-face meetings before a most effective means of explaining hazardous situations, stand-up briefings in which all participants are stand-up safety briefings. Stand-up safety briefings are valuable for three reasons. They prevent excellent the passive safety-related information to the railroad personnel. They also provide excellent means to inform operating personnel about new hazardous track, washouts, malfunction switches, restricted tracks, etc. Frequently face-to-face meeting provide most effective means to explain hazardous situations that exist. Stand-up safety briefings in which they all participate produce synchronism, result in everyone learning from everyone else. Standing safety briefings provide excellent means to keep railway personnel sensitized and safety concerns, between because the railway operating personnel see firsthand the safety is important, and middle upper management requirement installation commanders shall establish requirements and stand up and safety briefings minimum of 2 weeks between briefings, and simulation commanders shall require all railroad personnel to attend and knowledge to understand the hazard discussed and stand-up safety briefings. This knowledge can be taken form of initial signature brief agenda, and personnel who were to work for leave period should be required for initial hazardous discuss at briefings during a leaving point, and the discussion of hazardous during a stand-up safety briefing does not eliminate the requirement to establish hazard notification. The system discussed below. Stand-up briefings can provide excellent and conduct refresher training, and as discussed as above. And that, my friend, is all the way up to Appendix A. Be free to move around that and find. And that's basically all I'm going to record. Forms start out at. Appendix, it takes a wheel journal case, flange wheels, a gauge on flange wheels, gauge card for the flange, the joist, plane axle, how to change the railroad journal boring. Appendix B, the railroad management form starts out at 175, and you go through Form 1 through 11. And you take the written test for brakeman, railway equipment operator license, written test for conductor, railroad equipment operator license, and written test for railroad engineer equipment operator license. B15, B18, and B22.